Pacho mumie na radia sino ina na doye ohoda.
Amen.
Mumie na
Amen.
ahine muhine nasi no ye na doye ohoda.
Amen.
Amen.
Yedeni
Amen.
yankopon anse wona kwa odi afemi. The whole world is celebrating Christmas any day, December 25th. Na any day so nadmara kwa yeda so tinkwem. Odi aba bishia line so say yen betwa a Bible prophecy series no so I actually say in the stream of time. Now and then obi frame me bisa question me money din about Christmas. I celebrating now or say bit my addition or one. You better bread na one day I addition and yeah learning how Christians no I was say yeah you who sad done na you be celebrate ya you who say was is celebrity but then no na you become handsome into neighbor to ya addition so. Sola Scriptura, the Bible and the Bible alone. Solus Christus, Christ in kutu. Soli fide, gidi in kutu, enye ejuma, yensanu ejuma, enye yahu odin, yenimtie, yahu ofe, yeni edin, enye bibia, gidi in kutu, na enamswa ibinya dankwa. Na ye bibia to the and it's also by grace alone because aduma edan kwanane or the chekwa aduma chedie yento yemfe ni edin amount sanka yenye penance bi amount sanka muni 1 million times it doesn't qualify you to receive everlasting life adum arakwa no de che na bibia to the glory of God alone. Ya this year say na debia ye canon ye botaye pa na gina Psalm 119 verse 11 say ye de nyame asem si yakoma mu a ebo ye ho ban efri bone ho. Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee. Na Bible na chere kwan ye fa so sua Bible no or say my Bible na kasa na explaining itself. Precept must be on precept, line on line, here a little and there a little. Na ene nse date na wahana no say Mrs. Sano. Did me changing it quickly and I'm say be post online. Yeah, ene 25th. I mean save. Ene Daniel chapter 11 I started in the last time no and one a year to us. Last time you see Daniel chapter 11 and you started from verse 1 you call you could do verse 9 and you take a break and as soon you best started from verse 10 near share bibi a bit makwa could drew na and soon you take a break so near kind of Daniel chapter 11 and a year chapter bia in same womb na nti ne ye to ye boase na esua ansa na no bese se ye si trias ne ye monpai enyankopon ya bank sie chema ni hwamoda aye yie ni enumnyama ni kabia nhyɛ odi kokro enumnyam ye da wase wo nkwa wo de fam ye ugya wa hiniem wo soro eba wiase ebefa akwa tebia eto ho so amebe wo senipa yanwo wo palace nke betuma wo palace nke nokra no ko abra ho asefis efise wo nyame enso so no wan pese yenwo palace au emu adidi bia na wo obo soro asase eponi ne wo nyina no ye wo ewo ho ye enam do a odo ye nti enam se opese uji efiri osefo ni mpochiri mu nti enam se ompese ebekọ ose ye mu nti ena ofbe fa akwa tibia yi mu eto so na obre ho ase akosi ase nua wu a ye ngu ase wu ene japa ode to ho so se de be ya yanke yense fatais so ne ibenya onimu adom ibenya chefa wa ahini ni mu ti yi wa ye kanfo show di kura ni munyam wo do a ebro ya dwene ne enti ase nyina so yeso se rade obebwa ye ne ensusu no betma do senia wodo ye ni bi me no pi me ni umransem so ye ni wa hyede so na daache o pi wa ni umnyam a obra obebre ma ye ni na anye kwa na wadum ntini yenya chefa wo ahini mu ye ne ye kondo we ni ye hwehwe ema yankasa ye ho o ma wo wiase afa na nyina o ma wo line so ebusuafo ne adofo nyina we ni ye kondo yin se obe ya mai te da wase waju papa Yesu di muti amen. Pacho sa motemene
Pacho your team.
Yo, Elder Medasipa. Yeah, until last week, we started with Daniel chapter 11. This started, you can say, and come share what Daniel chapter 2, Daniel chapter 7, 8, 9, no, Yakupon use symbols in a kind we see history, no, my young say. When you may no free ase na abre nyina no neni kunema ho even when nima go through storm nkura na ye say he is still in charge because he knows what is going to happen. Na uba Daniel chapter 11 what dia one fat symbols no kra no eye nyame soma obofo Gabriel no be chechre Daniel Diane vision ni mu se de be nyanti ase na ncheche mo de man no kra no wo read Daniel chapter 11 and one eko to aso chapter 12 no nti wo read a wo hu se the goal no kra na nya Daniel minu mienu nchiri ma no ya ye ba bra wiase eko na wie no it is how honi ya Nebuchadnezzar eson ye na any a Daniel so Daniel chapter 7 any chapter 8 9 hono elkon nyina no the same type of the same dream, so to speak, but then I can say God being the greatest teacher no he repeats and then he expands at the end of wakanda no or sabe fa another way be asa can the same thing actually na fedu man ye more information. No, Ahinian started from Babylon, a called Medo-Persia, a called Greece, and a called Rome, and a called divided Europe, and a minu yete uhoni ni nase. Enti sana Diana no sana visions ni na neko. Until ye call chapter 1 no. A free chapter 1 oko no nyina no die a woman nyina Daniel chapter 11 sorry me say chapter 1 a free Daniel chapter 11 oko no nyina a details ena nyakopon e de maye na last ne can say who go through sa details na ma hu say ampa nyame a yesom no Christopher nyame no only the true God because ono nkuto na betimaka ade ebe happen thousands of years. But can the details? Actually, if I say even krana a man for foot anamo teki yina obetre and sana in the hundreds of years and sana sa characters no krana babe warm and so what can in details or mobile dio mobile. If I say you go through, yes, I'm go through. Biomtino bia oye interested bia na so bia ohia refresher bia otumi eko ye YouTube channel no ekohwe video na ye ja eto on Daniel chapter 11 part 1 no but ahaka credit ba mi chrem me anase me san enka ya adwene say Babylon ahini etwem ko Medo-Persia ahini no ebetwem akọ Intine no enkomsha obofo Gabriel o cheche mu akere Daniel o Daniel chapter 11 no emphasis na nkasa no onka Babylon ahini bia biom ena oka Medo-Persia ahini towards the tail end. And eventually oba Greece ahini na Grecia ahini no. And o chere say Grecia ahini no mube papai into 4. The move papai into 4 now. So here Daniel chapter 7 now, or can the same thing or say a Greece ahini no move papai into 4. But over 11 now, after those had or details be back and you know details not the back on say ahini move papa into 4. Na yenim say Alexander the Great wuye na ahini no move pa into 4. Detail back on or the can ho chapter 11 is say Alexander the Great wu a ne ma na Sydney bian na si ebetory. Into a moment will be people that are only related to him by blood, and that's exactly what happened. In the kingdom no, a multi change into 4. The 4 generals Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus, and a chiche ahinim. No multi chain according to the 4 cardinal points on a compass. They say all north, south, east, and west. A train no commission no a tree mu say Sanchi mu away no baako ebe strong na baako aye even stronger and have a great dominion and tiene high me project no also one of his princes in Alexander the Great no account go for besi na no 4 no you know Bible no use the phrase say one of his princes or say and the king of the south shall be strong. A chair move for no the or take his southern part no Egypt no Ptolemy no or say he shall be strong. And or say and one of his princes, one of Alexander the Great, the princes in Chichemu for no he shall be strong above him, or be stronger than a Ptolemy no. Nasa a king chrono na nasa kingdom no any Seleucus or no overcome the other parts and say you are not south, east, and west. Or say south no fence will be strong. Na one into he south from aka 3 aka north, east, and west. And or say one shall be strong above him. Seleucus no. First will rule over Syria originally no. Or be more powerful overcome 2 other generals It eventually Alexander the Great no. The kingdom be in 2 parts. You were north and south. From here no so what we na see a man commission a bit easier. And I say in commission a bit easier. Daniel chapter 11 Oboka said king of the south, no one who said or Egypt and Ptolemy. We need to say green no that's me can say me na me try a Greece. I said a be easy to follow. No can say king of the north so now one who say or can Seleucus and I say Syria. Now omo henen so na bi omo azumu title be Antiochus. Into one say do a in green fonts no me use Antiochus the same king. In the last so yesua hu sania ntokwa si we anyway kokon now chene we ni wo kokon the details nya Yakopon de mai o Bible no ye be call verse 10 hono ye be call verse 10 hono yen rush through Daniel chapter 11 because a very very detailed. Verse 10 hano say ana mamin back up a crib na men kaye I fancy hano ye hun say not any south taikon and I feel ye some person make peace into the ye say south king of the south no or the never buy a friend Berenice so the king of the north no Antiochus and Seleucus a Syria or no Syria so no or the man of our dream, not cases through our day and asumdua because after the need are very related. But the condition is say I was say Antiochus ujaya ne yere afend Laudis into ukujaya ne yere be ware Berenice our ye Egyptian king no ne baba no last nisua e de fencing ntokwa ne mujahwie gu bebre eba honum because eventually no Antiochus esa akwakofa ne yere dada no ne yere dada no so ba na oproto se wo mekum o poison Antiochus ena oba na okofa no Berenice no o make sure say ye be assassinate no e bekum no ene nkofo mka no no obekum no until no cause revenge e chire no Berenice ni nua bema so bedi ekunya no so wo Egypt no ye say mi nua ba na mbokunu no I am going to avenge her until no ene so de entokwa bae ene ono no bedi king of the north no so until we read a chapter now you have to know sir a historical account the course nyina no and it's the last me can say chapter 11 100 year kwa kura 12 ne die a history because niaman be been yen no ye nchirimanti yen no we have the benefit of history niaman okay already but the time and nyame esuma Gabriel tre ne die na okay it's a prophecy about the future ebebano until we have hindsight. Now you call verse 10 or say, but his sons, Miankai say, Berenice, Ninia Berman Ekudi, Ekunya Ewo Egypt, and if Ptolemy Euergetes. Or no, so back of Venge Ninia Ba, Oko Avenge Ninia Ba, Ekudi Syria so. A king of the north so overcome ni wie ya ke so all planter honomu or farm gods se mukaya ye so for gods over 2000 gods omuhoni ediko back to Egypt all planter honor na o say sedition kofo bi pese o yekudita wo no ngasa ni maimu Egypt enu nti no abandon bibia no go back to Egypt. It you honor you take you off from verse 10. Now say, but his sons, Hanon Diokan was a Syria, the king of the north, and Antiochus, shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up, even to his fortress. A dear na Bible na can ha. A dear na can ha no. First part no say, or you should plural, or say, but his sons, king of the north known, his sons, king of the north at that time we know Seleucus Callinicus, ne ma, or you should plural, shall be stirred up. Ombe say, yabetumpa ye papa, yes, so be avenge on. Ye be avenge ye papa. And also shall be stirred up, and shall assemble a multitude of great forces, and one shall certainly come out. One shall certainly come. Omu ye plural waha, but the bedroom had a be singular, a be one sem inoka, and overflow and pass through. Then shall he singular return and be stirred up, even to his fortress. Inti ne de no kan. Inchiremu ne say the sons of Seleucus no or hinina a Ptolemy Euergetes of free Egypt. Ebe avenge ne sister Berenice no. Sa time no hinina no sisu ne fen Seleucus Callinicus. Na Seleucus Callinicus no owo emma mema mienu. We in a history and it's documented. The mema mienu ne efra omo Seleucus Serranus ena Antiochus Magnus omumienu na Seleucus Serranus no ono na epenyi enti no omo so omo ye se omba avenge on papa ene omo man Syria, the king of the north territory no eno enti no penyin no ono na bedi ekunya no so first eno wa assemble soldiers of fast soldiers be brave some o train omo prepare omo no makokokon asaje or mine back from Egypt, king of the south, Ninsem. But unfortunately, no, and I say they happen and say, not Seleucus Callinicus, and the women who assemble soldiers, so training, but on one casano, first of all, no Nisika. Secondly, you be very disciplined, you be very like principle, papa. And until eventually, no, the maker could say, no, you weak. On one ni soldiers, on one ni generals, no. Omu say omu leader, omu hinin, or ye weak. It omu poison, no mukuno. Two of the generals say yes, sir. Omu kuno ni we na ninia ketuanon aifan Antiochus Magnus, no. Omodine ombesi ekunyano se. Ono moment ye more capable until ono no embedi ekunya no take charge of the army say be ombetumi friend say I recover omo man Syria no it is an ekoba ye enunti na wo ready ha na o say his sons no plural shall be stirred up and assemble a great a multitude of great forces and one no Seleucus Antiochus Magnus shall certainly come and overflow and pass through. Then shall he return and be stirred up even to his Egypt fortress. And Ninia Kuman Antiochus Magnus no determine ye bedi or minus so say first of Marco fight na or maji mekan so many found or say a truce followed wherein both sides treated for peace yet prepared for war, after which Antiochus returned and overcame in battle Nicholas the Egyptian general and had thoughts of invading Egypt itself. And in Antiochus Magnus Seleucus Callinicus Nebakumano no or marching soldiers no omo eventually no omo could overcome Egyptian soldiers no so and o marchi omo to and say Egypt assassin borders and this na trainer can say even to his fortress his near Egypt fortress no and you know na omo kokon ye ekopem ye na enunti na saa one Antiochus Magnus no or say he shall certainly overflow and pass through into obedi Egypt for no so enkunim. Now verse 11 na or say and the king of the south the king of the south is see an person automatically yina ko yadwene eko Egypt so the king of the south, Egypt, Ptolemy, so shall be moved with Cola. Ye defeating a first in the general Nicholas. Amanka, a king of the north, no, Antiochus Magnus, no, nka obera Egypt cry. Until the king of the south, no, also so who son, or say shall be moved with Cola, a buffu show, and shall come forth and fight with him. Him, no. A king of the north, no, a Antiochus Magnus, even with the king of the north, after the Bible na say. So if you doubt who he means by fight with him, a king of the north, then yeah, can. A king of the north, now the Biano may repeat, he say a Syria and I say Antiochus, and he. Egypt or Hene, Ptolemy shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given into his hand. In Shemuni say, Ptolemy, dear obesi ni papa, if I say, Ptolemy Euergetes, or avenging in your Berenice, no. When you know, sir, event when you know, who said it take so many years. In Ptolemy Euergetes, no. On avenging in your a Berenice, because near become in your Berenice, yeah, no, me planning koda, I will avenge my sister. Obedi kunyane wie, wawu, ne ba na ba bi sisu sesia. Na ne ba nso ne efe Ptolemy, makase Ptolemy ne uhwa ekoyo ekunyane title. E de se de bia Ghana e kase bia asante hene. Oh, a title, enye a particular person din. Inti Ptolemy the obesi ekunyane so after Euergetes no was Ptolemy Cleopatra ne besi ekunyane so. No besi ekunyane so mami reading hakakre o say Ptolemy Cleopatra succeeded his father Euergetes in the kingdom of Egypt, being advanced to the crown not long after Antiochus Magnus had succeeded his brother in the government of Syria. Antiochus Magnus or ninua a Seleucus no yekun no eno no ebe teki ekunya ewo Syria or teki ekunya o Syria anche ena uko Egypt so a Egypt hene Euergetes no nso wuye na ne ba Cleopatra ebe si ekunya no so. Or say he was a most luxurious and vicious prince, but was at length aroused at the prospect of an invasion of Egypt by Antiochus. Esa Cleopatra no yo bia na o time obesi kunya so no wo sika eyi ena na osaye vicious ni timu osum into who say king of the north no attack defeating the general Nicholas no ena o yes say no on so be prepare for war and you know say he was moved with choler because ye defeating the general Nicholas ewo esa war no it also be avenge first esa defeating, and he came forth out of Egypt with a numerous army to check the progress of the Syrian king. The king of the north was also to set forth a great multitude. Over war, the soldiers, why organize soldiers, the Egyptian king, why organize soldiers, Kakaka, attack king of the north. Also, on now, sir, also by organizing on soldiers, said the Bible to a sea. And in the army of Antiochus, king of the north, now yes, say historically, yes, number no also I have specifics, but for the sake of programming, the exact number of soldiers, but no also and in that battle, the king of the north, Antiochus, was defeated, and Antiochus Magnus was defeated. Only the soldiers, exactly like the prophecy in Akan and say, and he, Egypt, shall set forth a great multitude, but the multitude shall be given. The multitude and king of Syria, or also the multitude or the bar one, shall be given into his Egypt hand. Sana a commission and a kind. Intine sa war I call so our chapter 11 Hanon Egypt energy in kunim ewo hono. Oko 12 na. History no Yakupon who one pa o. Me say sa Daniel chapter 11 me read here pa me read here me who dream me say nti nyame onim o fen say as one here because you can say nyame nim we any film fit ase. You may take it as a cliche be, but it's actually true because the details are nyame de maye o ne tre say no me yen hu say Christopher ye nyame no o nyame anu hu no so na e wo say maye nyina ne hye yegidie din say waka say ye den ye hu to no so a o nyae sa dan no beba be fine e de akodi dan sa dan e no kore wa planning bibia despite the obronsan bibia wa planning bibia and his words will surely come through as revealed in Daniel chapter 11 and Yisrael. In chapter 12 now, or say, when he, after the king of Egypt, no, Nyame can once him when I say, for Gabriel, a man, or say, when he, that's the king of Egypt, hath taken away the multitude. Say Syria, or only the multitude in the call war. Syria for no, so the king of the north, so the multitude in a bad war. Or no Egypt ne dinkunim. And o take offense, o take bebre captives. Or say his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000, but he shall not be strengthened by it. Then I may a patche ewan. Now the Koba say, or conquer any enemies, no. A king of Syria, any call for and supporters, no. Or no king of Egypt, no. That time, no, na him for no, bebrina, no, especially a heathen abosun for no. Na yankophobia na omusuban menkanisa omusuban enye kra say omaniji eniji on parties ho they said the yesua Belshazzar koto party or nyame kru aye no and they also loved a debauchery edu omutu sa party na dwaman akese na no mo bo no ase and omuso mo dwaman no kra no na ano wo hye because omutumi fencing orgy on ena no omohabo it is our king of the of Egypt, king of the south no or no overcome the enemies, the king of the north no best strengthen in the kingdom no one focus parties I can see any orgies, sexual immoralities ena or fencing or engage in and intina a fencing a trainer can say his heart was lifted up by his success, but he was far from being strengthened by it. Success na and strengthen no na a nisubaya na enye correct no intino no on pay attention so obe rule ne mind no na de bia no or to party na party no or if say orgies. And you can't orgies and have even homosexuality in a no more. They were doing all those things during those debauchery parties. Now, one focus who on ruling his country. No, Emma or no one can call for no the subjects and we say on any way dear on your correct. They be our party. De bia na person nyema hu hia no I am more mine and no we are more focused on and to almost at some more rebel against him and it will say he shall not be strengthened by it even though according to him no or no any weakness no ebemana aye offense mre ebemana lusu in the kingdom na or say, his heart shall be lifted up, and he shall cast down many 10,000, but he shall not be strengthened by it. I say, me I say 1 point be one more. Okay, yeah. And you know, say and one no say. No one can call for no Egyptians and started rebelling against him because now. Na memunu ne enko yesa oko verse 13 na I say for the king of the north shall return because the cost war or mind be emu no etene omo say king of the north and say after the Egyptian king the king of the south were weak etino this is the right time also shall return. It was for the king of the north shall return and shall set forth a multitude greater than the former. Antiochus, king of Syria, king of the north, no, or say yes, okay. They say there be opportunity na ba. Akwa we nyama mu papa bia no strengthen the kingdom. Parties I can see Jamaica can see na all born no. Antiochus could fast soldiers, could train soldiers even bigger than the first timer or koya you could defeat no. And you will say a multitude greater than the former, and shall certainly come after certain years. with a great army and much riches. First time no point to kwano first soldiers be no ni sika, no ni resources. This time dear, wa gather sika, wonya resources, and it is exactly as happened. Also, the events predicted in this verse were to occur after certain years. Until Uka say after certain years. Until yes, immediately now after a first into Kwanana we happen. It happened after certain years. When you have a trainee soldiers, I gather sika resources we here a fence wa gather. Now the echo say in between first into Kwanana into Kwaya Bebe no. Almost time to a peace accord. Or see, the peace concluded between Ptolemy, Cleopatra, and Antiochus lasted 14 years. Almost time to a peaceful agreement. Say okay, say ni say, in a fencing, Bema Asumjiaba, yasen sign. But sa peace a take 14 years. And intina nyamino nim dachi asem no or can say certainly shall come after certain years. Until certain years in 14 years. Meanwhile, during that time, Ptolemy, first Cleopatra no owie because of the medical kind no super boneni adwamane enema ehunya ono na focus no owie. Na owie ne ba ono efen Ptolemy Epiphanes. Ene besi na nine. Na ne ba no Ptolemy Epiphanes in that time he was a child for about 4 or 5 years. Oyakwala eno besi ekunya ne so. Enti obesi ekunya ne so no ohono na Antiochus, king of the south. No. Antiochus ohun se opportunity aba. Akwala na besi ekunya so akwala de obebu o man saying saying so ohene ne akwala asa na advices na a rule on his behalf. Advices and sometimes so ebu ono ma a jealousy into kwabi to me babo muntem enti na oman na time koso sa akwala na a rule. And in the Bible Quran, there's a Bible quotation or say they woe unto you when your king is a child, something like that. Or if I say trace him, when tis akola dear kunyana so a mpempi no effect on mine and koso. Nantiochus who say akola be di ni enemy Egypt so no. Sadia any opportunity aba into Ogada soldiers, Ogada sika, or enter into covenant with other kings. Bakoni even Philip on the kwapam say okay ye kokontu ntukwa ya ye bechiche ahini enimu say ubefa miso mbefa ha o ye saade ni nyina ansana obetemte say open obe engage in a war. Verse 14 or say and in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Sad time na nya Antiochus nko na plot to say obe defeat that child king Ptolemy Epiphanes and that's Egypt ahini no there were other people so more plot to so be defeat Egypt ahini na also into that trainer can say in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south Egypt also the robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. Again, a Bible on the air can one. We can say Ptolemy, king of the name no number me pesa me born a king of Syria Antiochus Antiochus no na enyo no ko na a plot to so a fencing oba be fight Egypt or enter into covenant with a king of Macedon Philip so omo come ho say me di kan no mko ko a omudi nkunima no macheche assassin within Egypt was so no now there was rebellion, seditions, koso ewo oman mu. I say no oman no asumdue enimu. Until the opportunity no was ripe, say Antiochus, king of the north, no, Obet tries to take his opportunity. We now, or the defeat king of the south, no. Now, ahai no say also the robbers of thy people. Intin nkomse ni mu no, o chechire mu no, before Gabriel chechire mu no, afedie robbers of thy people no. Who are these people no? Who are thy people? My people no come one say Daniel people. It you say robbers of thy people are, or Patrick say robbers of Israel for not say Jew for no. I don't know or one say. Now the word that you're translating you say robbers of thy people no. You can also translate it as say the breakers of thy people. Omaya na Gabriel a church and commission no come once a Rome. So this is the time and commission or introduce Rome into the picture because our time no Rome so I started Basro. Rome started and Rome can defeat Thrace. And one of the 4 divisions of Alexander the Great in the kingdom, no, the empire, no. Omudi can defeat you. Started very slowly. In Timami really have a cray or say, far away on the banks of the Tiber, a kingdom had been nourishing itself with ambitious projects and dark designs. Small and weak at first, it grew with marvelous rapidity in strength and vigor, reaching out cautiously here and there to try its prowess. Sir, a king of the north and the king of the south, Syria and Egypt, there was a small kingdom, small group of people, initially no me weak. No so almost at for more ambition, say they want to be great people. No almost at a quantua, until kakra na omu defeat other omu take other territories. No, it was a small and weak at first. It grew with marvelous rapidity in strength and vigor, reaching out cautiously here and there to try its prowess. Normally strategic. Or share wow, tell you what I say, I call me to me, and some no happen. And you so pity one stomach direction, no because war. Now say fencing, it boldly reared its head among the nations of the earth and seized with invisible hand the helm of the affairs. Slowly, no more on now if you don't defeat larger kingdoms, it take you or more territory and become more dear. Because henceforth, the name of Rome stands upon the historic page, destined for long ages to control the affairs of the world and exert a mighty influence among the nations even to the end of time. Sa kingdom no Rome. Omona Bible Daniel, Gabriel described and say robbers of thy people, and I said the breakers of thy people, because of best share Israel so almost say Jew for so no almost taxes they were taxing them. It's an apt description. Say robbers of thy people shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. What does that mean? Now, if I say addition to the mind say, the Romans interfered in behalf of the young king of Egypt, determined that he should be protected from the ruin devised by Antiochus and Philip. Philip ne Antiochus, and I say Antiochus ne Philip are plot to say Egypt hin no yakwala ye didn't to back of foreigner or a weak or minor crown no offense a mu papai misunderstandings politics cause war. This is the best time also attack you. It's your more plot to Sano Rome or my kitwana I feel no more status so air banner. Omo interfere in Antiochus and Philip, king of Macedon, omo plot and so. Now when it happened, let's say 200 BC before Christ. Now a offense was one of the first important interferences of the Romans in the affairs of Syria and Egypt. All along, north and south, Syria and Egypt. After a second, and not on Hinibi for so and as a kingdom for be so buy into the picture, room. No. Now see Antiochus, king of Syria, and Philip, king of Macedonia, during the reign of Ptolemy Cleopatra, had discovered the strongest zeal for the interests of that monarch and were ready to assist him in all occasions. Yet no sooner was he dead, leaving behind him an infant whom the laws of humanity and justice enjoined them not to disturb. Nka normally nka akola bedi ohene a nka aman otwa no ho hia kra no so me enemies kra mu nse enye right say akola bedi hene ne beto ahye fence ahini no so because yes so no ebetuma ba say ebetuma atoyen osuso no wo ya ahini a wo betumi fence efri mu na bucket one ba bedi ade wo mpese enemies be take advantage of that. Inti na kwa say unwritten rules say akola bedi ade a enemies na that's not the time you attack. But Antiochus, king of the north, no any nadamfo Philip die omo kata omani wo ho say omo akwa attack Egypt no na Rome ampene won inti Rome ampene sa ama sa omo plan no amaso. Now conscience say to establish the vision, you see Romans being more prominently than any other people the subject of Daniel's prophecy. This first interference in the affairs of these kingdoms is here refers to as the establishment or demonstration of the truth of the vision which predicted the evidence of such a power. The additional they catch say sa time no Rome any picture no but afe no mbe fence ebeba picture no na so mba picture no a it should make it clear to nyamema say and I say it should even confirm more to nyamema say nyame nim the oka because na nka original den ko bia say na Rome so dey kan the Rome kan sem Syria and Egypt ni ahini a omugina omonai so Rome do ba mu say ni ba nyame aka say omeba into the picture no into or say to establish the vision into omba picture no you will establish the vision say dear Daniel nyame yi kire wo nyina a me obofo Gabriel me cheche wo nyina na no kore na sa pepepe na bebem me enkoso na me pese we no ye end on Rome on hene odi kan ebesi omuso pa because it's very important that Yakopon is so beautiful in how or see predicted the future in so few words. In Tinoko verse 15 I'll say, so the king of the north shall come and cast up a mount and take the most fenced cities and the arms of the south. And the arms of the south, that's Egypt, shall not withstand, neither his chosen people, neither shall there be any strength to withstand. Rome, I say, omo beshe, omo boss a young king, no. How or if I say Egypt, young king or basic nyan so a friend or a dinner no dos until the hair is escaping me. If any Ptolemy Epiphanes ombe no no ba o mankasa be training no be chekire no ombe raise no na in the nutshell the combine say nipa Rome for the share ne nsa say on raise saying Ptolemy Epiphanes no the way ono see exerted the influence in no emma I won't you eba Egypt even more emma to kwakra rise within them. Now me read here say yeah one thing I me reading in so. But in the nutshell, the say I want you eba fencing sa nipa na yede ahye ne nsa se ono na entity ohene no because yede ohene ahye onse se wotete by de facto wu na wurulu and the way no see rule no na entwa yie nti ema rebellion by Egypt even more ema opportunity by king of the north no oni omo call war o defeat omo neither shall there be any strength to withstand nti the king of the south no and I say Egypt was defeated. Here was the failure of the arms of the south to withstand, and the failure also of the people which the king of the south had chosen. And they were defeated. Verse 16 will say, but he that cometh, again, in conscience, eka ubia oba ye Rome. So, but he that cometh against him, ubibeba abe fighte Syria, Antiochus, wabe defeat Egypt, even though na Egypt, Rome, I'm warning say back off, Rome ebe respondo, and that's exactly what happened. Say Rome respondo ye. Now me Shahan more say Syria made a Roman okay. Although Egypt could not stand before Antiochus. Although Egypt could not stand before Egypt in Twini Antiochus the king of the north Antiochus went to me before Rome Nimu first Rome for who now came against him. Rome for only king of the north Antiochus it almost defeated no kingdom were longer able to resist this rising power. Rome started sorry abano. And that's what sorry by Obian would stand you. They were too powerful. They were too strategic in war. They were too prepared. Almost defeated Antiochus. Syria was conquered and added to the Roman Empire. Almost the Syria became Roman Empire. The same power was also to stand in the Holy Land and consume it. In Commission and a kind, or say. And he that cometh Rome again, and he that cometh against him, Antiochus, shall do according to his own will. The Rome pen obey, and none shall stand before him. Obian to me in Rome, and he shall stand. He near Rome shall stand in the glorious land. Glorious land, a Jew for answer. A year fencing, Jerusalem, say Judea, which by his hand shall be consumed. Nyame man comes and do a beer, or to me jump a call it no can't do ever happen finally no Rome they consumed a fencing the glorious land almost destroy Jerusalem ye name san comes no yesu bas as so be share san comes ever happen and it came exactly in AD 70. That is when Jerusalem was totally destroyed. The temple was totally destroyed. Yes, you can say, not one stone shall be found upon another. And that's exactly what happened. And they will call a fencing Israel. Normal kojina a war bihu. Almost the Wailing War. Normal catcher and say, Sa wall was part of almost the east wall of the temple. No, and you know correct. Yesu a question comes and say, not one stone of the temple shall be left one upon another. And that's exactly what happened. Don't go now a cobon pie no. Uto wase now your research now look into a Twitter. Na a Roman for no mudiums, no more military forts. And even Fort Antonio. Almost seen very close to the temple no. Nana a massive associate temple no cry. Until a fort no over time a year destroyed in a kind of war. But the actual temple in AD 70 everything was destroyed according to the command of and I say yes come share or share the Wailing War no mkojina ho no enye temple bia a Roman for no do almost no war and unfortunately nipa kojina ho a na ye bomb pie na ye the fencing ye bisa de ye the sheshe in between ye tregu papers ni that share as a tradition bi a fencing e da ho no aha no no fencing wa history no wa ntini because of time no mekoso because me be say ye ba and this is here about 758 ye be and this is here but moment hwe wi na ubohu nyame ni many ye ne kese ye. Daniel chapter 11 verse 17. Or say, he shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom, and upright ones with him. That shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither be for him. History nature say, Abra Vincent Egypt hene. No, sisu sa time no ye kan wan semi ni efen Ptolemy Ulet obewu no ojana hinie ema ne ba bema ene ne ba ba se omumienu no omurulu mbom ne ba bema no ono fast title se Ptolemy ne ba ba no ye nyina no wo so history obi atini din ne efen Cleopatra no na ya tini din from history no na ye kan asem ni papa ebe wunu no ni papa ni king of Egypt or the ahini ni she Ptolemy ni babema eni ni nua ba pense ni babema ni baba Cleopatra so omurulu mum but okache omo se omunware that time na incestuous relationship so obi ware ono ani nua ba obi kwa no obi tumi ware ono ani maame. They were doing some crazy stuff during those times. Until papa na share say ne ma no omunware no murulu oman no emum but fencing ne ma no munye nkofo a they got along. Until anche bia na 2 minutes na abeda ntemu. They were fighting amongst themselves for control. Now eventually Rome step in because now Rome na ehwe fencing amafa o man say as a protectorate amafa Egypt say protectorate omo no mobo Egypt ho ban and until Rome step in say they are going to resolve a issue na Caesar the first Caesar ye nyina history friend Julius Caesar Caesar na kasa na ni din pa but the chain be ye kunya ni din so be emperor no afasa ni din as title Julius Caesar no na yes oba ko resolve sa awontuwantu abeda enuanu mu ntem no na okoye no oba na owom no a efe Cleopatra no na yes history chese na obi a oba bia no oye ne ho ofe physically ne ho ofe na oye I can say ni nature so no oye engaging until oye very what's the word that we use to oye oba bia onim how to use na ho ofe and then if I say ni nim die to manipulate until of our kwan bi so representing ne ho eba Caesar nimu no ba nimu no essentially no naked ena Caesar omo ankasa no say makase adwaman debauchery na very very rampant among them and only one of their major weaknesses until Caesar fell for a Cleopatra. Eventually Cleopatra ewo babema baako na na means a Cleopatra person of faso na ono no ebenye kunya no but eventually in Caesar said debi mumienu na mu papa eje kunya no maamo nti mumienu ena wo se pense motre kunya no so na saa yi no is captured in verse 17 it was he Rome satana omu dodi omanim no mighty general no Julius Caesar shall also set his face to enter with the strength of his whole kingdom. Julius Caesar edin ni tumi nyina ekọ Egypt to take over and upright once with him. History, and I say, may abridge me a fencing, may try to summarize it, but a point if you want, I have to give more information. Julius Caesar and his soldiers, Julius Caesar is all settled between Enuanomono, Omampene. So there was rebellion against Julius Caesar. And until Julius Caesar, after or call or the initially none soldiers and they can no also into a call for reinforcement. Into the whole kingdom, by Rome, the mighty power, and they crush a fence obia and after the take over the whole fence Egypt. And San to Quanumuno, and now burning down a fence the famous Library of Alexandria, and there were over 400,000 books. It was destroyed. The first library, Alexandria Library, when the Egyptian was on some mind, and some books there was destroyed. In a way, we can say a good because now books are a demon, a quite first way demonic name. Oh, and then I say almost a what's our library on, but it was destroyed. And say to enter with the strength of the whole kingdom, Julius Caesar the Rome whole force in the coy, and upright ones with him. Upright ones, that phrase, or can't you for that time, and I'm saying Egypt, Mukroba, coin Alexandria, and it was an Alexandria library, now a Greek for in the decay a Greek Alexander the Great in the Church Alexandria, Sacrum, or yes, our library, now a not Jew for be honor. Now Jew for no me a very influential effort or mine access to a like the city so recruit no more. Now almost support to Julius Caesar and Untina and Commission can say upright ones a Jew for they were with Julius Caesar. That shall he do, and he shall give him the daughter of women, corrupting her, but she shall not stand on his side, neither shall be for him. Aha no. The uncommissioner can say, Sir Cleopatra, no. When ya ahini no. If I say ahini ambition and son, Silla no. Nam so ne Julius Caesar woba. Na who offend Julius Caesar a weapon who damned no or influence or Julius Caesar mupa and a corrupt fencing or no Cleopatra or corrupt fencing Julius Caesar, and she shall not stand on his side. Eventually, no. Julius Caesar Cleopatra, no. Oh, I can't say obey ye Julius Caesar ama, and she did that in a war happened here because a war can happen here. Eventually no kokun Julius Caesar me no hon kwan there. Julius Caesar was assassinated. Kokun no Cleopatra etin hon ko bomb Anthony. Oh, it's history very interesting. Na quite convoluted too. Na over 18 hana time as me bending. I say after this shall he turn his face unto the eyes and shall take many. Julius Caesar na can once more. Julius Caesar bet than in any or defeat Egypt, but than in Ashe Island so and obefa bebre na. But the prince for his own behalf shall cause the reproach offered by him to cease. Without his own reproach, he shall cause it to turn upon him. Verse 19. I said, then he shall turn his face toward the fort of his own land, but he shall stumble and fall and not be found. Julius Caesar. So what's your history? And say no school moon because first final elementary school now much less are they winning. Julius Caesar, powerful general. And in conscience say, he shall stumble and fall and not be found. What happened? O defeat Egypt no. or take basically control over the entire Alexander the Great the empire or giant or take control no ena after the dining in so back to on one kasani krum and it will say he shall turn his face toward the fault of his own land or back to the krum no call the krum no ena that time na Rome no one rule Rome no senate na kings na was senators omurulu omurulu omai no nti Alexander the Great go back to first Rome no and senate for no or a bimu ye kana na say they want to crown him say ono be a empire and na say dictator for life and nti omo share that March 15th the date ni na wo history March 15th 44 BC before Christ. March 15th, 44 BC. Ena omo plan ye. Ena omo present fencing so omo di besi kunya so he be crown no king and I say emperor. Na ono ankasa ne nkofo ne nafofo a history ebo omo din Cassius, Brutus. Omo no conspire say against him said they don't want any dictatorship ewo Rome no omo present the throne and as a flowers na man on sa na the dagger se kan ahye enti nani ba no hoso no na ono ankasa ne kofo no omo stab no 23 times and Alexander the Great a fence otumi call akon over 500 every 500 battles. Alexander the Great otumi conquer a fence 1,000 cities. Alexander I'm mixing up names Julius Caesar na American answer me Alexander the Great. Julius Caesar a fence or akon 500 every year. Julius Caesar would defeat 1,000 cities. Efa omobeka nishye ho. Julius Caesar okum ne wars no okum nipa 1,192,000 people no. Julius Caesar enough the that for me because on one kasan call for in the for Cassius, Brutus, omo aploto, ama conspire against him, as tabono 23 times, and Julius Caesar immunoshe, follow ye. To say the young one, I cannot hundreds of years before say Julius Caesar, or say he shall stumble and fall and not be found. And Julius Caesar on March 15th, 44 BC. Entino aha ena addition BC. Monfancheme, I was fumbling the names because it be on my dream. I've been thinking say I'm mentioning the right name, but I may bo a info flow. Entino a kind of horse, so be a questioner, or bit maybe sir. But at the back one send the last mechanic no, a wide issue one, you know, session, Yamina Yasum no. He's very specific. Now, yen sometimes any the name of Diagro, or can't seem clearly. Nay, but Nipa fencing, I said, ye you said, the any per se, ye rationalize it. We have to be very, very careful. Or ye Yamisum, because he's so specific, say, or to me, who said there's going to be a fencing, a mighty man be in the hundreds of years in the future. No waka a fence senior or nema pemu besi abone bra waka akoka senior besi ewu. That's exactly how I see bemu in history. Ntini yansum yenyame a yesum ni ye pa na nuhu ehu madam nyina ase. Pacho kind of hope for questions. Ntini need besi chapter 19 hanu Julius Caesar ewu no. Next week nearly a twaso free and next Sunday near twaso free chapter 20 or verse 20 what they are called. That's it.
Your opening, that's a P. Radin can topic we know said ye na no easy intinu say ankasa utumi sua hu mu becheche ni a dan ye be ma wo Radin bi wa tumi na da biara da Radin kan amen.
Yo, elder, nyame so nhyira wo se ebre nyina oba so a o contribute na o kire wadwene. Nyame so nhyira ye nyina se you make it time for say ebesua nasem. Na ye hu nasem a yanye bone entia. Nyame nhyira ye nyina. Acho ofoforo bi so wa adwenkyira na se question a emre ewo kakrama no. And you be I can say he's got the whole world in his hand and no crapa. We should Daniel chapter 11 now. Say ampa nyame bibia no he's in control. The beto dache or tire beba ne masu nyina no. We Daniel chapter 11 should assure us say God is still in control. He is not an aloof God. Until baby in a while we shed the echo so as I see so. He's in charge. Bibia ni honma ekoso a fencing onim. Enti no nyame a yesum no Christopher ye nyame a yesum no ampa ono ni the true God. Because unko fa Hindu for treye omo holy book enhu sa details ewum about the future. Unhu bi wo Quran mu. Unhu bi wo any religion bi mu. Edese ye Bible ya ye wo yi eno na uhu
Elder, me pacho me wo question bi wa kakra.
yo man pacho manenko
Yo. Me pacho wo kai kwana no. Wo mention Jew fo wom. Wo mo so no, wo mo etware wo mo ase, wo mo hye Jew fo no ase. Eti that this adesua no Edia na Jewfo no ye nyina ye nim se tembia no wo fomo a Nyankopon de wo kɔ ha wo. Eti we no this particular topic we no edia na Jewfo no ye a wo eka saa we wo ha we mu.
okay my point na me
So the question mo da ho dia.
muda pa na me hu
Yeah,
bibia
that's it.
say 0.2 no un se me kan say hefa kra na ya hanumo no Daniel chapter 11 verse 16 no or can say and he shall stand in the glorious land which by his hand shall be consumed. Enti no eno na me kire mu say Nyankopon na nkasa no unse onim de beba ewieye no from pense infiti ase. Enti no sometimes no nkom shemu no na Yesu kra no ba sa ase Yesu kra na tamesuafo no meeting no pointed to the temple say look at how beautiful this temple is, what manner of stones are. Omudi build it temple Yesu come say there's going to be a time not one stone shall be upon another. What's that? The better destroyed, Nina will be destroyed. Nyankopon some wohwe Yesu nkomhye na fence Jew in the disciples who beside Jesus say tell us what shall be the signs of the end. Yesu oka wohwe uridi ho na o ma o cheche mu a wo oka ebifa about Jew for no sa the destruction of the temple na woman na wasa kase nani down the line to vision to years we say we no what can the best happen we say we and sana haka crane say or say he shall stand in the glorious land Rome for no shall ba obedi Judea so which by his hand shall be consumed. Rome for nankasa ne be destroy Jerusalem and I say Judea na no na meka say ebemu AD 70 asema nkomhye we no Julius Caesar time no AD 17 say Yesu aba wiase aba bewu akosoro but part of nkomhye no eba before say Yesu and he that cometh against him when you BC and near ma. Meaning say if I say a man Jamaican no, I'm struggling to explain myself there, but the mention say
Yeah, paper chomo da hopa.
yeah, Nyankopon or kasa otumi ka imprint the baby in a few years at or can home come say almost na jump ahead akọ the baby wie no intinin ahaka cry no sa na ekoye say imprint was BC before Christ, but after the Oberkan say which by his hand shall be consumed omo in the best say the glorious land intinin no jump to AD 70. Now, some commission in the details of the event happened in AD 70. Yes, na nyamina ne kai say one stone shall not be left upon the other, or be destroy first Jerusalem, or be shiti omunina Jew for throughout the whole world, and that's exactly what happened. And you know, I guess kakra but my question is a very good question.
Yeah, that's nyamisho.
Yo. Patro for a question and yo. So obi any question the any ma Paulina. Why if the last person I want to say into message say ube bo empire a share addition so na nyakopon nkonkro kwantre for na ono abema entiase see read the Bible now, especially Daniel chapter 11 yeah, very difficult. I also encourage you be say unya ho addition kasa no one thing about addition say most of the time usua ba ko a won te ase anaso won kan bibia nti repetitive no so usua no multiple times and eboa ma unya nti ase and even deeper nti message says obi nyina ye make time na Daniel chapter 11 and yen ready na yen go back to the first lesson year with Daniel chapter 11 na second one we share it to us so I think say we need more clarity nti nyame ya dominance ye shia Sunday na who question bia next what may be sir and am so we need more clarity no ho na questions so with me arise nti we dey ma pacho other Roma is so say be close to addition with prayer.
Yeah, that's it. You other from Pamuchama me Mompaye. Yenya koponi ye na bankese aye ye ne na sekese nka hoten.
Amen.
Onya me batampa onko anu fra ye da wase enwumire nsu bie mpapa. Wona wakwa so papa da bia wo soso wona daye na de beba awieye bere mu a wo ma ye beda ye ho so na ye nko oseye mu. Na Kristo obepie na wo ma ye behu wanum onyam nti da ne da nyina wona monko anu mfra difo so kyerɛkyerɛ wo ma Awurade ye da wase yesra wo papa da ne da nyina wo mpanimfo eso omo da Awurade yesra wo so omo adaye na kyerɛkyerɛ wo mo ase sɛne na Daniel eso daye a na oba wani mu a wotumi kyerɛ no sɛ wei na beba no Awurade yesra wo fa saa adom ye mpanimfo nso ewa wieye bere mu Onyame batampa yegya wakoa wone na busua hyɛ wo nsa Awurade yesra wo bere biara wakoa ebe fa wo twerɛsɛm sɛ wo besua no abɛkyerɛ wo ma no yesra sɛ wobɛka abusua yi nyinaa ho na abusua yi nyinaa come together na Awurade wodi adom bɛdom wɔ mo na ebi aso mo nyinaa so ne nyinaa yɛ hyɛ odin konkron na numonyam Onyame batampa anadwi yɛ kɔda wo yegya yɛ kra yɛ nipadua hyɛ wo nsa yesra wo sɛ mo abɔfo no mɛbɔ yɛ ho ban medi yesu afurusane o anadwi bra yɛ nim yɛ ho so hwɛ ni yɛkɔda sɛ awufuoi Nesade akye na Kristo unyane yefiri ye namu a yakase aseda ayeye nkanfo ntontom enka wudi konkro no ija ye ho hye wonsa saa holiday ayi mu Christmas ye nyina adadi enti ne yede kokko ene di Christmas eyobonefo no ayi afahye ɛno nti eduru samre mogya ka guo ne nneɛma bebree na ɛkɔ soɔ awurade yɛsrɛ sɛ wɔbɛbɔ wo ma ho ban yɛde fire yɛfi bɛn mu na daa ne daa nyinaa wɔbɛka yɛn ho na wɔde yɛwura afe foforɔ mu na awurade wɔabɔ yɛn ho ban firi ɔbɔnefoɔ no nhyehyɛeɛ ɛne ne nsusuiɛ nyinaa ho Kristo na yɛntumi tena ase tena pama wo na yɛnhwɛ w'anim na sɛ ankyɛ na sɛ wopie sɛ bi mu temufoɔ a yɛtumi aka sɛ yɛagye nkwa pa a yɛatwɛn wɔ berɛ mɛfa yɛn ani yɛnkɔdidi a yɛnsa da yɛda wo ase sɛ anwummere nso woatie yɛn wɔ dɔba Yesu Kristo Nasarene ne din mu ɛne yɛbɔ mpayɛ amen.
Amen. Amen.
Yɛda ma Paulina say Patro Sister Priscilla raising in Santino a message say every man akwenya na wakasa Patro Sister Priscilla
Me Patro na me question is adesua no said the wuside maaye no me pese me ti ase say me menti ase ni say mo bi wo wa no de aboa me interpretation of division of kingdom from Alexander the kingdom na divided into 4 uchichi and na me bisa say no na all the try said the same thing and happen ewo ohoni no na si Daniel dream no in church mo say that same me can say the same thing better happen like a repetition of the history. Say the kingdoms will be divided and the Ebema SCN, like me person me bisa say, is it the same thing our person or trend or has say na?
Yo, Sister Priscilla, I mean sure that's all question no. Time untine no, the mechanic say I am a time emphasize say Nyakopon one the greatest teacher. And the method of the child the end say or repeat it at the end of our candidate no amount more information. And there is a reason why more information because initially no so what should I dear oh na say bia open say me ba Rachel because me chain car closer on tiasie but they be me started with a basic arithmetic sana a china me money more information na me money more information after the bear kakra obeti car cross asie wo sha sana hopon a bank commission mu no o see eti ohoni na Nebuchadnezzar son no dae no no obo awiase ahini ebeba wiase nyina oboni nyina tofa in ohoni no wama details pa into na ukọ Daniel chapter 7 na sa ohoni no wa presented the same thing we be repeat it but eno no wan fa ohoni na de ye o de moa na de ye no be repeat sa information but no mama more details say the bear because ko ama yes details na nka ahenye ne ye hu say okay we kra de fence obofo Gabriel edu be bi obo ahenye ndi say we Babylon we Medo-Persia we Greece Baba Rome say ya one more Rome until how would we know say Rome the only way abu say Rome ni say details nya me de maaye no or may so much details say the baby hu ahenye kro na or ka ho asem no enti no sana fencing ye enti no uba Daniel chapter 2 na Nebuchadnezzar die no and about fencing our swing and only a summary or bontofa kakra bi uba Daniel chapter 7 no after a tofan no or the details be real no about 8 so no the more details room 9 more details uba 11 dia afa dia or focus super ewo between Greece any room echo we are saying or say my more details for Daniel chapter 11 twice or 12 no now after the old jump from the book of Daniel now called Revelation na nyame aduma no so ebe koso na Revelation after the na the vias divided Europe no fence and say the feet no after the nyame be more details about the characters are a play role we are see away yena no yesu anwa de various churches in pain Roman Catholic Church the papacy no but obema more details sana Yakupon no or trade na menim said the makan no bring more clarity there yes any history na repeat you nchechiremu ina nyame ede mai say the baby who is who and yes na when yes information there is nowhere can you even say oh way no the papacy no a Vatican a pope no a Roman Catholic Church no kan wasem ka ye hu o ntini Yakopon no sa na o ye na de he repeats and he expands menim say ntiase abakakra sisa Priscilla. Yo, Sister Priscilla, mute no Tino. Yeah, that's Sister Priscilla.
Pacho me dase.
Yo,
yes, me dase, but Bibia tell me so I will call you.
Yo, Tina.
Now, me, so you made mention about say one of the king was like a portrait, to say Antichrist. And now one can be visa.
So a portrait, you say Antichrist. And then you can see one dear Daniel chapter 7, 8, 9. But this particular fancy papacy so Antichrist, yeah, so because Daniel chapter 11 45 verses, but baby
I think national doctor. I think Sister Pressure national beside no. Meaning some of the man in the question here. That Obisa say 4 kingdoms now almost bring it out of Alexander the Great, you know. On one of ye Ogunina na Daniel so na. The patron Pressure, yes, I don't know Obisa na.
Hey, Pacho, I son and me bisa say. Kingdom, sir, maybe related.
And to say, almost can be. I would say the 4 kingdoms now almost bring it out of Alexander the Great in the day. One Bible car almost said, Alexander Ahindi actually. Name your friend say, Ogonina Omoya 9 a day. I would say, make I say, Doctor Swart in the question will be said, I say. No, when you know a 9 a day. Those 4 generals, the young no get Ogodi and Diana, Omuitre, the friend say, Daniel. But only a part of the one of the kingdom, and I'll say about.
Musa miss a question here, and I'm some Matthias.
Now, some of this, say, Sister Priscilla, be so question.
Yes, I cry some night ramming for Madame in a book.
Because as someone will be saying that owning those 4 kingdoms not mobile here after
Alexander
the Great, you know. I'm representing Owoni and Naina, Omuitre and
Debbie. Maybe say, repetition of history, say. Some Yamana, there's a Beco Swa, would done a ditch nana.
And yet, yeah, and you know, the word and say, any repetition of history. A in of history of Ebeba.
Oh, okay. The
Ebeba. Or man with details, Ebiapa, I won't say, a picture way. Babylon and him, a best called that. Persia, him, a best called that. Greece, dear. But Tama vision and a ban, I said, Danny, and Nebuchadnezzar so sad I will. Net your not more Babylon, not Medo Persia, my Greece, my Rome, my divided Europe, Nanya, my, and I fit Nanya, my. 18 no, a fancy, a be a person call, Babylon a person call, Medo Persia a person call, Greece a person call, Rome. Ahini na kasa no abesin ko, but nkomse say e would fit na a part Rome and part clay. Anu na ye efense ye wo mu yi that time in you ade aka ne say ebo a enye nsa na toye no a ye Yesu ebe ha be crush fe say ohoni ni won nine na yam ne pada na ehu akọ nti the notion uti ne Nebuchadnezzar die na say ahụ you get a summary of events that happen we are sit until say crimes beba who say Nyankopon so onye bibia until say Amos chapter 3 verse 7 or so onye bibia until say obey release ama actually D4 enti nyame mpese yen Christians no ye betna say during the last days blindly ye nim de ekọ and I say de ye kwa sorry routine de into my guidepost or my signs of the events that will happen in the future. But in the book of Ezekiel was a very nice summary. Over Daniel chapter 7, no amount more details. Over Daniel chapter 8, now for the Babylon and Chemunti, no focus on Medo-Persia, no account Greece, no account Rome, no account divided Europe, and the Papacy, no account one more details. Urusia after the oko 11 and no more even more details, but oko Revelation dia and the after the like more details. Into any repetition details. It is said in America say what share konadi no what share so akran be hu calculus, but also we are started with a 1+1 a division. We be start here and san oko nenim na wo man more information sana yakopon or ye in the DSM Daniel and Revelation sana or any repetition of history. Bacho mu ada kakra
Pacho Matias ye
yo ye da
again me polona na fe me iranti
nyame wo ho ya unya ho so na wa hwe video ni biom on at your own leisure and so na ebo apa yo ntino nyame nka ye nyina ho ma Paulina ehira so ama ye nti be ma ye nyina ye ho mispa
di
Amen.
Yami Shrani Mo.
I thought so you forget to say this thing.
Yami Shrani Ma.
Amen.
Amen.
Night.